Okay, guys, very welcome back to the show today. And my lights are going on and off and flickering, but it's all good. Today, I'm joined by professional wrestler Sam Houston, who you guys will know from WCW, Florida Championship Wrestling, WWF, many, many years of wrestling. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm blessed. I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. I'm doing well. I'm having a great day. Every day above ground's a good one.
What are you up to these days, man?
Well, well, really, just kind of whatever I want. I spread the word for the master everywhere I go. I'm a walking sentiment. My testimony, I guess. For him and everything he's done in my life. And then I piddle around the place here. We're sitting on 5 acres, and I've got some projects here at the house that I'm doing. I was training guys with Bobby Fulton's little school. He had a wrestling school about an hour north of here, so I was doing that some. And I'm doing a little bit of remodeling work on some homes and helping out. I'm doing 2 pizza restaurants right now,
Shit.
working on some projects for them and just hanging out, just getting through life, man.
Yeah, so you're still a pretty busy guy, obviously.
Oh yeah, plus I'm still wrestling. I'm the United States
Yeah,
heavyweight champion still, and my belt's over there. But anyway, hang on, I'll get it.
yeah, I
Oh
do. Yeah,
yeah. So I've got the PWA United States Heavyweight title. My next title defense, I believe, is July the 15th in Lancaster, Ohio. Looking forward to that. And these are pretty good things for a guy that's almost 60 years old. You know, so I'm still
yeah.
active. I wrestled the Barbarian. What about 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago? Something like that. We got
Excellent.
into it, and everything was fine. I was doing really good till he started slinging chairs. Then I had to start, swinging a chair, and it just all ended up, there was no winner. So anyway, I'll see
Non-contest.
him down the road. I'll hit him with a chair down the road.
How's the body holding up then, man? For someone obviously that's been in the business for such a long time, because I meet a lot of guys your age and their bodies are just fucked. Like, how's yours?
Well, I mean, oh gosh, in '91, I was injured. It was left me partially paralyzed on the left side of my body for a while, and then I got this doctor out in California worked on me and got me back on my feet walking again. And then the Northridge earthquake hit out in California, and I was in the middle of that, and I re-injured myself knocking doors down, getting people out. Well, the doctor worked on me again and got me back. Well, all the injuries were to my neck between my C3 and C6. Everything over the years fused together. I can just now start popping it again. But so I've been partially paralyzed twice. Then my career was over then, and I met Charlie Norris, and I started training with him at the developmental center there for WCW. And after 3 months of working out with him every day, he was like, "You need to get back in there." And I was like, "My career is over. I've been hurt." And he told me, he said, "I'm giving you everything I got, and I can't do anything with you when I get you in the ring." So that's when we decided that I would come back to the ring if I in a tag situation. And Charlie was my tag team partner, and together we went across the world. We went to Japan 5 times together. I was almost eaten by cannibals twice in New Guinea. You know,
Jesus.
huh? They were carrying me to
You're
the big black pot.
Yeah, what
I,
happened? That's an interesting one.
huh? You
What
want to hear
happened?
that? Okay,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
got
of course.
over to Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea. And they pick us up at the airport. And we're driving to the hotel. And right when we're leaving the airport, I see this totem pole that's about 80 feet tall. There's 3 of them sitting right at the airport. I'm like, well, okay, we're not in Kansas anymore, you know. So anyway, we get to the hotel, and the people there, it was like I'd walked into a Tarzan movie. And the next day I was doing an autograph. Well, that night we had a big party. The next day we were doing an autograph signing, and I was standing in this little bitty ring that's about maybe 4x4. They got ropes around me, and I'm signing autographs. Well, after about an hour and a half, I had to go to the restroom. I went to the restroom and got a soda. And I was coming back, and the people picked me up, and they were throwing me over their head up in the air. And I was like, wow, I'm the life of the party. Well, I didn't know how much of the life of the party I was. The tribes people there, there's still so very many. There's quite a few cannibalistic tribes there still. And they believe, part of their religion is they believe whatever they consume lives through them. So I'm a wrestler or a fighter or a warrior. So they're figuring if they eat me, that I'll live through them. And, you know, but they got me. They got me all the way to the front gates, and the Australian Army came in with all their vehicles and stuff, and they jumped out and they were shooting people with rubber bullets and the guns. They were beating them in the head with clubs, knocking them back. These Rottweilers, biggest Rottweilers I've ever seen. They were clamping on people's heads and just dragging them off. It was the most violent thing I'd ever seen. So they get me in the Army transport, and the major goes, mate, you ever watch Bugs Bunny? Bugs Bunny, yeah. He said, you know the one with the Ethiopian? And I was like, yeah. He said, there was a big black pot in your future, mate. And there was, you know, about 4 days later, Charlie Norris and I, we almost got it by him. And then one night I was in the ring. I had Killer Brooks in a headlock, and the I guess the natives, they knocked down 100 yards of wrought iron fencing at the soccer arena and stormed the soccer arena. The Army had to be called out. I'm standing, I got a headlock on a guy in the ring. All of a sudden, the next thing I hear is a shotgun, and I hear the pellets landing on the roof, the tin roof. I was like, I'll let the headlock go, and jumped underneath the ring. It's a lot safer underneath there. But we got back to Texas, and my father was the one booking my international tours for me at the time, and we walked straight into him, and I told him he wasn't booking Charlie and I anymore.
What a way to start the show.
Wow. Well, it was something. It was we had to wrestle. They sent 4 wrestlers, and we each had to wrestle a 40-minute singles match and then a 40-minute tag team match. And I never knew it, but we were brought over there by the Spear Cigarette Company, which is a cigarette that's probably about 8 inches long, and it's about as thick as my finger, and it's got newsprint on the paper. It's rolled out of the Australian Daily newspaper. They were killing the people in New Guinea, the natives, getting them hooked on tobacco, where they're smoking the newsprint and getting lead poisoning. You know? Jesus. So I guess that's like a genocide type thing.
Yeah.
You know?
When we'll change it up a little bit, and we'll just yeah. I know it's an obvious question, but obviously second generation superstar, your dad was huge in the business and obviously influential. Was he the one that ultimately led you to getting into the business?
No, he tried everything he could to keep me out of it.
Oh, really?
He had the year before I was supposed to start wrestling, I had my tonsils taken out, and they messed up, and I died on the table for 2 minutes. I got 16 stitches on this side where they opened me up, and 18 on this. The anesthesiologist, when they went to put the tube down to my throat for me to breathe through while they do the surgery, because what they do is they stick the tube down, Then they put a balloon down there. They blow the balloon up, and it gives them room to work. And they snare the tonsils and scrape the adenoids. Well, when they put the tube down my throat for me to breathe through, they punctured a hole in the back of my windpipe. And then when they gave me the anesthesiologist gas, I had an open wound in there that when they're forcing gas in me just opened up and kept filling me up like a tire. And I had so much the gas in me that it caused a heart attack. And I flatlined for 2 minutes. They resuscitated me. I'll never forget how mad I was that they resuscitated me, because I was in such a peace. Look, you can have everybody in the world try to tell you there's not an afterlife. I know there is, brother, and I know where I'm going, and I can't wait. I'm not in a rush to get there, but I'm not afraid either. So, and I'll be describing more of it in my book. I'm writing my book right now, my life story.
Yeah, even from those two stories like that you've told me in 10 minutes here on the podcast, I was just thinking in my head, this is going to make a great book. So tell me about the book and who's writing with you and what's the plan for it.
Well, the lady now that's helping me, I wrote the first little bit while I was locked up in prison.
Yeah,
and I got a good start on that way, and then after I got out, life goes on. So I had to take a break from it for a little bit, but now I'm dedicating myself back to it. And I've got a lady, she's a friend of ours. Her name is Amy Friggle. She's she's a journalist and this, that, and the other. So she's got credentials and stuff. So she's going to help me with the editing and everything. We're actually doing two books at the same time. One is my life story, and one is a substance abuse book. I went through 13 different rehabs and completed each one successfully. But I was a bad alcoholic too. I'd leave an AA meeting and go straight and grab a bottle of whiskey. I didn't have a problem. When I'd sit in the AA meetings, a lot of times I'd sit there and I couldn't wait to get out of there to go get that bottle. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that hit me while I was sitting there is such a depressing place. Why would anybody want to get sober? But I turned it around. I'm happy about being sober now because, hey, dude, if you want to ask somebody if you can drink, yeah, I can drink. I used to drink 3-4, fifths of whiskey a day. Almost 3/5 a day for almost 19 years. I mean, that's nothing to brag about. I had an addiction to it, and it ruled my life. Well, it doesn't anymore, and I can still have fun.
Yeah. What made that decision then, just to
when
give
my
it up
mom
completely?
passed? When my mom passed away, alcohol. I felt like alcohol and over-the-counter medications like Tylenol PM and things that work on your liver. You don't realize all of the poisons that we put through our liver. Well, Reggie Parks, he was the gladiator, I guess, a long time ago. He made all the belts for the NWA, the title belts and stuff for a long time. Anyway, he told me when I was a little kid, he was an alcoholic. And he told me there's one organ in the body that that if it's messed up, can rejuvenate itself, and that is the liver. And you have to feed it right. Well, I was a bad alcoholic, but I drank fresh carrot juice every day, and the carrot juice did for my liver what cranberry juice does for your kidneys. It flushed them out. And, and Black Bart, I guess he was my nemesis for years and years and years in the ring and everything. He's got cancer now, and we're doing everything we can to see him through this. And his liver's been affected. He's got some spots on his liver. So I've helped him out with the carrot juice. We got him a juice maker, Kim and I. And then got him hooked up with some sourwood honey. It's it's a carcinogenic type honey. It kills cancer cells. The bees make it on this side of the world in two places, Brazil and Georgia in the United States. But it isolates, there's something in the properties with the sourwood honey that it isolates the bad cells from the good cells and kills the bad ones off. So it's a pretty good thing, you know.
Yeah, it's very sorry to hear about Black Bart, and obviously wish him well. Was it hard to avoid stuff like pills and alcohol being in a business like wrestling when you were in it? Because it was kind of like rock and roll, wasn't it, really?
Well, yeah, but you got to figure too. I mean, everything is a challenge everywhere you go. You know, you're okay. Let's just say for your image sake, you know. So for my image, if I, you know, now I don't worry about it. I am who I am. I'm proud of who I am. You know, I've always been proud, I guess, of what I stood for and everything. But I don't have to like prove anything anymore. I've already proved it, you know. Um, but yeah, at that point in time, you know, you start thinking and you start believing your own publicity, and you feel that you are Superman. You've got to do better than everybody else, and that was probably one of my biggest downfalls too. You know, because you hear like Dusty and Flair, you're going to party with the big dogs and blah 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 blah, you know, and party
Yep.
all night long. You know, well, I took that to heart. I partied all night long, and one night I was sitting there, and uh, Rick, I guess he ordered at last call. He ordered 50 kamikazes and 50 Coors Lights. So I ran out of kamikazes in front of me. So I grabbed one of the kamikazes that was over by him, and I drank it, and it was soda water. It wasn't out. There was no alcohol in it. And I was like, oh, I got mad because here's a guy saying, oh, he's partying with us, but he's not drinking any alcohol or not drinking much alcohol, you know. But then I started thinking about it. If I was a world champion, if I was there was a target on my back for everybody, yeah, I'm going to go get everybody else drunk. I'm going to stay straight. That way I know I can come out of the situation okay, because there's always people looking.
Yeah, that's interesting because you always hear people talk about the party element of Ric Flair, don't you?
Yeah, you do, you know. But when I was with WWF, we got a little bit, I guess, more hardcore. I think with the party. Now we partied hard in WCW. Don't get me wrong, we partied hard there, but we partied for with WWF. I mean, we were rock stars there. I mean, it was unreal, and the pills, everything that was there. I mean, whatever you wanted, you could get. But that's true for anything at any time in any situation. If you want something bad enough, you will get it. You know, but in WWF, you know, you have the fans and everything. They all kind of know that they want to party with you or whatever. So we'd all line the boys up, and whoever the fans were, and they got to buy us all a double Jack Daniels, and they got to get one too. And then you toss it back, but then you got to gargle it for 5 seconds before you swallow it. Now, only a hardcore alcoholic is going to be able to do that, you know, without it coming through their nose or crying or something like that. But usually the people don't stick around too long.
I think as an Irishman, I'd be able to give it a go. I think I'd be okay.
Well, you know, back in the day, now I got 14 years almost without drinking, but I did have a certificate. I was a member of the Royal Order of the Screechers. Have you ever heard about Screech?
No.
It's a liquor up in Newfoundland. It's black as coal, thick as molasses, tastes like burnt Quaker State oil, and you got to chase it with Foster's Lager. But you take a bit of the Screech and then a bit of the Foster, and then a bit of the Screech, then a bit. I think that's where the Bushwhackers got their thing. You know?
How did you end up, I suppose, joining the WWF? Is there any mad story behind that?
Well, let me go back to what happened to me. I'd gotten my tonsils taken out, and then I worked a whole year to get my weight back on. I took my GED, because they were going to make me redo 11th grade again, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to get in the ring and get on the road. So my dad had George Weingroff get in the ring with me and work out with me, and he stretched me. I mean, he cranked up on me. He treated me like he would anybody else. And that was the first week. And then I came back the second week in the ring with him. And after the second week, he couldn't do everything he'd done to me the first week. I was a pretty decent amateur wrestler. I was undefeated in high school, but my high school career was cut short with my sister was kidnapped and taken from us. But um, uh, I'd wanted to be a wrestler all my life. So George, after the second time we worked out, went to my dad and said he's ready. My dad told me, he said, I've already lost you once. I'm not going to lose you again. He said, this business is not for you. So it took a little while. And then Dusty came in to the territory. And I talked to Dusty one night in New Orleans. And he said, come on down. He said, when you're ready, come down to Florida and see what we could do. Well, my dad, gave Dusty his big break. Dusty was getting ready to retire in 1969, and he was driving through Dallas to go home and hang up his boots and become a plumber with his dad. And my dad changed everything when they got out in the ring and put Dusty over in the middle of the ring. For the people that don't know what that means, he let Dusty beat him. He felt the charisma in the ring. And that launched Dusty's career. My dad gave Dusty his big break, and Dusty was a little bit of a history thing, and oh gosh, sentimentalism. Dusty was really, sentimental. And
Felt
so
like he
he
owed
was
him one.
returning the favor. He was returning the favor by breaking me in or giving me a shot. Well, I didn't know it until just recently that I got down to Florida, and my dad had called the Florida office and told them that under no circumstances was I to work, get in there. And J.J. Dillon, I was showing up to the show. I showed up. I had my gear, the whole 9 yards, and Dusty wasn't going. And J.J. talked Dusty into it, said, give the kid a shot. And Dusty did, I'm blessed because when I first got started, I was able to work almost every night for the first 3 months of my career. I was on the road with seasoned veterans, they could talk to me, and when I got to the Carolinas, I got to give credit to the Johnny Weavers and the Sonny Fargos and the Rufus Joneses, all these guys that help you along your career, that when you were a young kid just breaking in, you're full of all this piss and vinegar and everything, and you're just going to go show everything, should give them everything all at once. And it's the guys like the Johnny Weavers and the different guys, Jimmy Valiant. And I love Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Valiant. I just saw him a couple of weeks ago. But those guys, they gave you the advice. Don't get out there and give it to them all at once. Work it out through them. Have a match. Make it mean something. Well, that's how you learn to wrestle, not this once a week thing or once a month thing or every other TV taping. The business ain't the same, so people don't get the feel of it anymore. I don't know.
There was a lot of
Huh?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. There was a lot more consistency, I think, back in the day as well. Like if you look
We
back
were
through,
doing it all the time. It
yeah,
was second nature. Now everything, I don't know if you ever go to a TV taping and get there beforehand or anything, but just get to what's going to be a televised event and get there after they set the ring up and sit there all day and watch. Watch how many guys go out there and have to have their stuff choreographed or have to be shown how to do a move. These guys are not wrestlers, you know.
Yeah,
Uh, they're programmed. They're I don't know, action figures.
I had Steve Kern on my podcast a couple of weeks ago, and Steve was telling me that, he was there as a trainer for a while as well, and he was helping set up some of the women's matches. And he said that he went to two of the women one day, and he said, right, figure out your match. It's 6 minutes long, and he told him to finish. Okay, he came back maybe 2 hours later, and they still hadn't figured out the 6 minute match.
Oh yeah.
That crazy.
Well, here's what I love. I go to these events now, right? And I see guys out there and they're got like, go like 6 or 8 minutes and they're talking for 3 hours. They got, a blockbuster movie put together here, all this stuff, all that, So what happens if somebody misses that first thing? Where they don't have a clue, I've got to feel the people, and you're getting whatever you're getting everything I got when I get out there. That's why the promotions in Ohio, I just got to thank them. I got to thank the PWA. Twice they've had to move to bigger buildings because we sold the buildings out. So that's a pretty good, that lets me know as an entertainer, as a sports athlete, or the whole 9 yards, that I'm doing my job,
Mm-hmm.
And if I can brighten somebody's day, I want to, because it's about, for me, it's about being able to make somebody smile, to have a good time, bring joy.
Yeah.
The most important thing the most important decision a person has to make in their lifetime is their decision to follow the Lord or not. I want to see, I truly want to see everybody blessed and see them in heaven. I know that's not going to happen, because the master himself said it. A lot of people are going to come up to him in the final days and say, I've cast out demons and this, that, and the other in your name. And he's going to say, depart from me. I never knew you. I don't want to hear those words from him.
Yeah.
I know that I know there's a special place. So, I want everybody to make a conscious decision. It don't cost you anything, and you'll feel better about it.
When you first got in '87, you wrestled a lot.
Oh, I started in '83. Oh, in WWF.
In WWF, yeah.
Yeah.
When you got to WWF in '87, you wrestled with Barry Horowitz a lot, and it's always kind of comes up in conversation. And Bret Hart mentioned it last year. Do you think Barry or anyone in the same kind of line of enhancement talent or job or whatever they say deserves to be in the WWF Hall of Fame at some point?
Yeah, they deserve it. Without the carpenters, who, you can't have a steeple on a church without a carpenter to build it. You're not going to have a world. What's your world champion mean if he's got to beat somebody? You know what I mean? Somebody's got to go out there and be able to perform, because a lot of times the athletes getting pushed aren't the performers. Look at Terry Gibbs. Look how influential he was as enhancement talent. But he was, he went out there and he busted his ass. It's a job like anything else. It doesn't matter if I'm the first match or the main event. I'm still on that card. So you got to give me my props. And I'm running around in tight, shiny underwear.
Do you think winning and losing when it comes down to pro wrestling, do you think that kind of got to some guys? Because I know
it gets to people. It's like what I said, people believe their own publicity, I've been in the ring so many times that they've had to change it because something had happened, and I was so over with the people that night that if I didn't go over, there would have been a riot. Dusty's had to send Magnum to the ring. to change the finish for me. He's had to run to the ring himself and change the finish. The guys I was working with have had to change the finish because they want to get out of there alive. You know, there's just a connection between. I've been in quite a few riot situations, uh, but yeah, you want to get. But a lot of guys, yeah, they have attitudes. You know, they all think they're better than what they are. I think.
Yeah, you wrestled as well with a good friend of the show. I've had him on a couple of times. The guy's a very nice guy, Paul Roma. You two guys wrestled as a tag team against the Hart Foundation before. Why didn't they go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
Why didn't they take that somewhere, or was there any reasoning behind that? Because it looks like you guys only wrestled one match, but for the titles.
Oh yeah, they just put threw a match out there to get the champions over. So create a new team. They just put guys over. Throwing whoever together is all it was basically. I don't think there was any planning behind it. It was just that we need two bodies.
Yeah.
Paul was a good guy. I like Paul. He was fun.
Yeah, nice guy. He he called Ric Flair there out of my podcast a couple of months back. He wants to have a match with Rick.
Wouldn't everybody? I mean, I volunteered. Heck, I mean, why not? Send it out there, that last one was supposed to be his last match, and I guess people got mad because after that match they made so much money. He said, let's do it again. So let's see. I'll be his 11th last match.
You're throwing your name in the hat as well.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, maybe we'll have an invitational, invitational battle royal.
Yes. Yeah. Did you ever get any advice or compliments of Vince McMahon?
Yes. Yeah, I did. He told me that Survivor Series match that I was Ultimate Warriors team. I was on that one.
Yeah.
Whenever I got back to the come back through the curtain, he thanked me. He said, Sam, he said, you saved that match. He said, you were the only one out there that sold anything, and that goes back to winning or losing, Yeah, the guys didn't want to put each other over. They didn't want to sell each other's stuff, which is stupid because that's how you get over, by selling each other's stuff. People got like stuff all messed up. But that's okay.
What was Jim?
Huh?
Sorry. What was Jim like to work with? Because I know you two guys, you and the Ultimate Warrior, you had a good connection and bond, but not a lot of people say the same thing. So what side of him did you see?
Oh, well, see, when he first got up there, they just called him the Warrior, and they were filming his matches at TV tapings, but they weren't airing them because they didn't know which way to go with it. And we traveled together because I didn't hang with all the rest of the guys or anything, so we got along together. And then he was helping me with the weights and everything, working out, because I didn't have a great body or nothing. I wasn't, he was helping me with that. Then I was helping him with, things in the ring and trying to work. But we traveled together and stuff. And really, after I got him to start smoking pot, he was all right,
You mellowed him out, did you?
These roid ragers. He was bouncing the car in El Paso, and he was bouncing the tires about that far off the ground, And I was like, whoa. And the two police officers were like, buddy, we're glad you got this. And they walked back inside. So what had happened was somebody was videotaping him, and he didn't have his makeup on. So he was going to go meet my bootmaker. Well, I wasn't going to take him in that condition. So I made him start smoking pot with me. Yeah, he enjoyed rides after that.
You mellowed him out a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think there was maybe, because I know some of the guys say they don't like him, do you think there was maybe an element of jealousy as well. If you look at it from a different perspective about the way he looked and about the way he was being
Oh
presented.
yeah, everybody was jealous of him over that. I mean, how could you beat that? That physique and the whole 9 yards. On all the other aspects, he was way out there in left field. I don't think he really totally understood the business. I think he understood marketing and those types of things. I think, but I heard that he went up and he said he wanted the same deal Hogan had. And I don't think that was ever going to happen again. They were never going to let, after Hogan, when Hogan got over as big as he did and all that, and when he left Vince and stuff, it was kind of like a shattering, So you never want to, a smart guy is never going to put all of his eggs in one basket, basically,
Yeah. And when it comes to, go ahead.
You go ahead.
I was just going to say, when it comes to someone then like Hogan as well, like I've heard nothing but positive things from people about the guy. What was your experience like with him?
With Hogan?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was cool. He always treated me well. We got along on the road together. I never saw him do anything that I, thought was questionable or bad. I mean, I never personally saw anything like that. Everything I've heard stuff, but until somebody does something to me, I don't, I don't hold anything against anybody. I love the guy to death.
Yeah. So another random one. You appeared in the Royal Rumble in 1989, I believe it was.
The very first one.
Yeah, you're still wrestling now. If there was an opportunity for you to do like a guest spot in a Rumble, would you do it in the WWF?
Well, it depends on what the payoff is.
Let's just say it's a really good payoff.
Free. I'm not going to do it for free. Make it a big thing.
Yeah. They wouldn't expect you to work for free, surely.
Well, I don't know. Back in the day, it wasn't that great. If it's TV pay,
So if the pay is right, you'll
just to get back out there just to play,
Yeah. You look a bit devious there. You look like the wheels are turning in your head and you have some kind of idea.
I've always got something going on.
Yeah. Who was your favorite wrestler to work with in your entire career?
Well, there's so many, they were so good. And, and one guy in particular that never got the credit or never got the break. And he was probably one of the world's greatest heels that nobody ever heard about. And he was Sputnik Monroe's son, the Cajun brawler, Bubba Monroe. The guy was just an absolute dream. And I died laughing. I just loved working with the guy. I mean, and I could pull ribs, all kinds of stuff. But he never got. I guess the right people never saw him, or he didn't fit the corporate bill or what they thought. He was just a good old boy, and but he was probably one of the best heels I'd ever worked with. But I was blessed to be able to work with guys like Eddie Gilbert, Kurt Hennig, and Terry Taylor. But Black Bart, I got to work with all different kinds of guys and all different kinds of styles. I mean, the first time I got in the ring with Adrian Street, I was 19, 20 years old or something like that. He skipped to the ring in Richmond, Virginia. I had never seen anything like it before in my life. I'd never met the guy. And he gets up in the ring. And when the bell rings, he ran over, jumped up, wrapped his legs around my waist, and kissed me right on the face. Right on it. And I went nuts. I was trying to throw him. I was like a windmill in a tornado. Just everything was swinging. Didn't take but about, I don't know, 15 seconds, and I was out of gas. I was blown up, and he just did whatever he wanted to. He was that good of a wrestler, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was different back then than it is today.
Yeah. And you got to wrestle ultimately Dusty's son, Dustin, was Goldust now, Dustin Rollins as well. Like, what was that experience like? You
Oh,
know,
it
has
was great.
Dusty
Well, you know, a lot of people don't know it, but I taught him how to lock up and everything in my living room in Charlotte, North Carolina, when he was 17. You know,
Oh,
we were
really?
getting ready for the Great American Bash and all these big things, and you know, he wanted to be a wrestler and stuff like that. So Stony Burke and Hard Rock Ricky Reeves and Action Jackson and Pat Tanaka and I had an apartment, and we'd get him over there, and I taught him how to lock up, grab an arm, headlock, this, that, and the other, going through reversals, chain wrestling with him back then, you know. And then I got to wrestle against him for Vince in, I think it was Huntington, West Virginia, one night. I got to work with him there. And I just heard I was supposed to wrestle him in a pay-per-view in October, but they pulled him out, and I think they're trying to replace him with Kendall Windham. I'm not sure.
Hmm. Good guy though as well, and he's obviously in AEW now, and he's still wrestling. And obviously, his brother Cody is like one of the biggest things going now
Yeah,
in the
well,
business.
yeah,
Well,
and you know, and I'm happy for them both. You know, I'm really happy for them both. Um, you know, I mean, Dusty and I, we got everything straightened out years ago for us and everything. There was a whole lot of animosity, I guess, you know, with me leaving and going to WWE and the whole nine, you know, WWF, and uh, when you're in a high position and your talent leaves, that cripples you because you know there goes your loyalty. You know, so you know, I guess things have a crippling effect when you do things that against others' wishes.
yeah. What's the strangest or funniest rib you've ever seen backstage
Oh gosh.
that you can
Well,
say?
I mean, I pulled some good ones, but that I'm gonna leave that for another show with you. We'll come back and just talk about my stuff. But I would have to say one of the most harrowing ones would have been Harley Race stopping in Sweetwater, Texas, catching a rattlesnake with his bare hands, sewing the rattlesnake's mouth shut, getting to the matches in Amarillo, and unlocking and putting the rattlesnake under Terry Funk's driver's seat.
Wow.
Terry was driving his Lincoln Town car home that night. He had a sunroof, and if you held your beer can in the right space with the sunroof open, you could let it go and it would suck right out the top. So he was on his way home, and he had his sunroof open. Well, he felt something hitting on the back of his leg. He turned his light on, and he saw that rattlesnake hitting him on the calf. Well, he drove his car to the lake, you know, but he didn't know the rattlesnake's mouth was sewed shut neither, you know. But
That's
that's got to be a pretty rough one,
that's a
you know.
pretty that's pretty next level, isn't it? He crashed his
Now,
car.
yeah, now the funniest would have to be what I did to Angelo Mosca. I spread manure on his leather seats. I spray painted his headlights black on his car. I let all the air out of all of his tires. I jacked his back end off the ground. It was epic. He was leaving that night to go to Toronto from Richmond, Virginia, and he had to because he had a Cadillac and everything he owned was in the trunk of that Cadillac. He had to put all of his stuff all in the parking lot and jack his car up, and then that's when the matches got out. And he was chasing around the parking lot, trying to keep people away from taking his stuff with a tire iron. It was great. Wahoo McDaniels was right there for me, so I had backup. I have to tell you some of these. Huh?
Yeah. Was it always kind of, were you always looking over your shoulder because of the way that guys were kind of carrying on back in the day?
Well, you always had to, but when they would try to do something to you, you couldn't put it over. You just kind of had to let it go, and then and then outdo them. And then when you get them to come to you and beg for mercy, that's when you got them. I mean, how many people do you know? And I've done this to 3 people, but I've got them where they got wasted and they passed out. Then you write real big stupid across their forehead, and you take them places.
Take pictures with them.
Yeah, take pictures with them. Take them to the airport. All kinds of stuff. Take them in restaurants. Everybody loves them.
I think we could do a whole show on that. But the way I wanted to finish this show today was, I know it's something close to your heart, religion. So just what changed everything for you in terms of religion? And if you just want to tell people about what it is that you kind of believe and, just in general.
Well, I know there's something much greater than us out there. I do believe the word. I think man has distorted the word, and I'm doing my best. I'm not a leader or any of that. I'm not a reverend. I have been approved to have a ministry and stuff like that, but I'm not choosing anything like that right now because I've got to be sure myself. I'm not going to lead. I'm not going to blindly lead people. I'm going to encourage people to do what I do, and that's study. Go back to the oldest texts that you can find and study. Know what the words mean. I didn't know till recently. I knew years ago that the name Jesus wasn't a name until it didn't actually appear in the King James version of the Bible until the 1687 version of the King James Bible, because the J wasn't invented until the 1400s. The master's name is Yeshua HaMashiach, is how you would say the Christ's name, the King's name. But I had to really get into studying, and I don't just want to go to a church and listen for an hour and that's it on Sundays. I think to be saved, I think you've got to live for the word, and I encourage everybody to live for the word. It's going to make you a better person, and if I don't see people before, I want to see them in heaven. It says in the word that the path is great. I mean, the gate is great and the path is wide. But that doesn't lead you to the gates to heaven. The pathway to the gates of heaven, the path is straight and the gate is narrow, and few ever find it. And I want everybody to really be honest, look inside yourself, and make some decisions. Stand on your faith, stand on your decisions. You know the truth, study. That's all I want people to do. Do what you can to help ease somebody else's burden. If you've been blessed, bless somebody else. That's how we get by. As long as you have hope in your life, there's something to fight for. And I hope everybody fights for life. All right. God bless y'all. I love you. And be safe out there. Maurice, thank you so very much. And you holler at me anytime. I got to run and take my kid to music class. Love you guys.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, man.